Located in the middle of Antigonish County, the Lochaber community is a small agglomeration of people who made it home. Even if the community is 2 hours away from the provincial capital Halifax, the residents of Lochaber still enjoy what the locality had to offer. However, some recreational activities were stopped in the 1970s by the government because of an unacceptable level of fecal coliform, a bacteria which could be used as an indicator for fecal contamination. Several recommendations were made in the last report carried out by Leslie Buckland-Nix, John Lamb, and Michael Arnott in 2013 on demand of the LCDA. And one of these recommendations encompasses the systematical monitoring of blue algae, a cyanobacteria which produces mycocystin. So in this video, we will go over the speciation of zooplanktons present in the lake, mapped onto the percentage of dissolved oxygen in 2013, 2014, and 2016. We will also go over the evolution of percentage dissolved oxygen from 2004 to 2016 at the surface. And finally end with what our finding could mean and how will it affect the life of the community.
Hi, my name is Gilles Perry, and I would like to start that video by explaining to you what are zooplanktons. Zooplanktons are tiny organisms whose function is to act as a biological pump to remove organic matter and also act as a food source for larger organisms like fishes. Zooplanktons can be used as an environmental indicator to portray water bodies' health. How? Well, the zooplankton life cycle has a really strong relationship with its environment, and you will for sure get bored if I get too deep into it. Long story short, female zooplanktons produce eggs near the surface and depend on a certain level of fat storage to do so. When algal bloom occurs, female zooplankton cannot produce enough fat storage, resulting subsequently into a reduction in their population. However, algal bloom could cause cyanobacteria to appear, and the Lochaber Lake is believed to have accounts of blue algae, which in turn produces a harmful bacteria called microcystin. Microcystin do have a large effect on the zooplankton population in the Lochaber Lake. Some of the zooplankton species include rotifers, amoeba, cranium, daphnian, bosnian, and copypods. For this analysis, we'll focus on the two last. Before diving into the results, it's important to define dissolved oxygen. Everybody knows that oxygen is essential for any aerobic organism, and oxygen is present in water as dissolved oxygen. Measuring the level of oxygen through depth can indicate how much oxygen is being consumed by any aerobic microorganism. In 2013, level of zooplanktons and microcystis were recorded at every single depth. However, at 6 to 8 meters of depth, levels of microcystis almost reach 200 organisms for every 10 minutes. When the water quality sampling was done again, it was astonishing to find that almost no zooplankton were found in the water, but the levels of microcystis were ultimately high, so high that it almost reached 1600 organisms per ton meal. When looking at the evolution of dissolved oxygen from the year 2004 to 2016, at the year 2012 there is a negative peak of dissolved oxygen, which could indicate a possible sudden increase of microorganisms and a possible
change in the lake. Okay, the microcystis is reflective of an increase in the nutrient availability, almost certainly phosphorus. So what I think is that the lake has reached some sort of a tipping point. Because it's so deep and has such a large volume and a small basin, I've never calculated the retention time, but I think the retention time is really long, and that means that it has a long memory. So when there's phosphorus coming in from the watershed, it probably stays there for a long time. And there's simply been enough development around the lake that the cumulative effect of all the cottages, all the houses, all the sewage effluent, all of the deforestation, all the cutting, all the blueberry fields, has just become too much, and now it's switched from being unproductive and low phosphorus to being productive and high phosphorus. And microcystis is a blue-green. Many blue-greens can fix atmospheric nitrogen, and atmospheric nitrogen, that would make sense, that ability would make sense if the lake is enriched in phosphorus, because the next nutrient that becomes limited is nitrogen, and the microcystis would have an advantage then, being able to get both nutrients. Like the lake is responsible for the happiness of the well-being of the people, when I think actually the responsibility flows in the other direction. The people around that lake are responsible for the well-being of the lake. However, the obvious way is that it decreases the aesthetic value of the lake. So now it's no longer pleasant or even safe to go swimming or snorkeling or diving. Any kind of water-based sports now become quite unpleasant because the water is so murky. I don't know if anybody draws water from the lake for domestic use, but it would now have to be filtered and cleaned. And there's also the possibility of a toxin called microcystin that is produced by microcystis. And when the concentration in the lake, the concentration of microcystis in the lake becomes so dense, then we can start to get the possibility of microcystin in the water, which is toxic to mammals, so dogs and cats and people and beavers and so on. So those are the two real problems. With that, of course, the other life in the lake is profoundly affected by this outbreak. So we're seeing a change and a dramatic decline in the zooplankton, which will feed up to a decline or stress on the fish populations. It's more difficult for fish to find food because they're visual predators when the water is murky, and if there's fewer zooplankton there's less food for them to eat. And that again contributes to the well-being of the people around the lake, because it's something that a place where people like to go fishing.
So, hey people, if you enjoyed that video as much as I did, please like, share and subscribe below. And don't forget that little bell button, just in order not to miss a brand new hot video. It was Zooplankton. Ciao ciao.